Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the No There's Only Trash Here podcast. The date today is the 8th of April 2013, and joining me is the first recurring guest of the podcast. He was in the original, despite the fact that everyone hated him. I got literally thousands of messages saying I never want to hear him again. He's just awful. He's the worst. Tom, you're so good and good looking. Why do you associate yourself with him? Well, he's my brother, so he is back, and it's EdwardDaGuy.
It is I, EdwardDaGuy.
Uh-huh.
See, got it there?
There's no rhyming on this podcast. We don't rhyme. We just don't rhyme.
Well, there's not rhyme, but there's obviously lying. I can see.
No, wow. Did I lie?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I did. But that's not the point. So, as always, he's EdwardDaGuy, so he Let's Plays on YouTube. Go over to EdwardDaGuy to go watch a Let's Play of us doing The Simpsons, and eventually the end of the Pokemon MMO race we've been doing so.
That'll be a while.
So that's it is fun. Definitely is fun. So I've been saying this for the last few episodes. I always bring it up about how, there's not that much to talk about this week. And then in the end, easily filling the 50 minutes that I try and aim. But this week is the first legit week where nothing has really happened. There's one big bit of news that we're obviously going to touch on. But I now have to keep up with gaming news. And when I was searching out stuff for the podcast, nothing. Useless. No good, but either way, we're still going to fill up these 50 minutes, and hopefully it won't be awful. So it might be great. I don't know, really. It might be terrible. But so the first bit of news is to do with LucasArts, or the big bit of news, the big story. What has happened? LucasArts hasn't shut down, but has laid off the majority of its staff. It has cancelled all development on games, and is now moving to a licensing model. Now, pretty much what this means for the Star Wars games and for LucasArts games is that they won't be making any more games. They're done. They just won't be developing any. But that doesn't mean there won't be more Star Wars games, because what they're now going to do is that LucasArts, what's left of it, all the remaining staff, are going to be in charge of the licenses that LucasArts hold. So like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, they're the only two that people care about. So there will be more Star Wars games, but what this ultimately means in the short run is that Star Wars 1313 has been cancelled. So I don't know if you've seen stuff about that game, but are you disappointed by that news?
Well, I saw a little bit of it. I just looked on the website and all I saw was the title. But I mean, I was thinking about looking into it when they announced more about it. But then I like Star Wars, but I'm not a massive fan, so
Sure.
I'm not that disappointed. But I'm sure there's a lot of people who are very, very disappointed.
Well, here's the thing. Whenever it comes to Star Wars games, they always announce this big, cool new way they're doing things. Or we've given it to this people, or we're making this new Star Wars games. But it's not like the other ones that were terrible. It's going to be one of the good ones.
Star Wars Connect.
Yeah, Star Wars Connect. They all sound like great ideas. So with Star Wars 1313, when I saw it, I honestly wasn't that excited for it, because there wasn't that much revealed about it. There was this trailer, it looked kind of cool. So I'm not that disappointed by this news, or by the specific news that Star Wars 1313 has been cancelled, because I know LucasArts enough to know that they can just let people down, and they have numerous times. And I think that's the key thing to think about this, that were they really going to make anything good? I don't think this is such a terrible thing, because now it just means that no new bad Star Wars games they're not going to get made anymore.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it could have been good, because they have made some good games in the past before. I'm not going to name any. But, I don't know. It was a bit of an odd name. I read on the story and thinking it was a bit odd. But I think it could have been good, considering how much they'd hyped it up. But then, like you said, a lot of people hype up games, and they just turn out to be really bad.
Well, yeah, the initial reaction to something like people losing their job is obviously negative, but when you look at it as gaming as a whole, we didn't lose anything here, because the two biggest, or the two best Star Wars games of Star Wars franchises was Battlefront and Battlefront 2 and Knights of the Old Republic. Neither of those games were made by LucasArts. They simply published them. And I'm assuming they're still going to be publishing games, they're just not developing games. So we could easily see some good Star Wars games come out of other companies, because BioWare made Knights of the Old Republic, who are now, a big company, although not really anymore because of Mass Effect 3. And Pandemic made Battlefront 2, who was shut down after they made the Saboteur on 360 and PS3 and PC. So really, there's still a lot of potential for good Star Wars games, and I think that's what people kind of have to realize with this. Because really, LucasArts, I couldn't name you the last good game they made. I just couldn't. I don't have any.
Yeah, they're kind of just that, I don't know, sort of that thing that helps certain companies get through a bio being able to make the game. They don't actually help make it at all.
Well, they have been making games. That's the thing. They were making the new Star Wars 1313, and people know LucasArts by all their classic games that they made back in the day, all the point and clicks. But this company or the LucasArts at the moment are so far beyond this that I think when people were the news about Disney buying them came out, that people were afraid of this happening. And because ultimately this is Disney's decision. This isn't this new, this Disney owns them. Disney has dictated this. They've looked at LucasArts and its developing history and they've said, no, we're not going to do it anymore. They're not making good games. We don't want them making games, so we're just going to switch them to just licensing games. And I think that's another, smart move by Disney, so I don't think Disney are going to get any heat for this because this is a long time coming, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think many people are going to be that disappointed about this because I can't think of any LucasArts games I've played. I probably have played them, just not noticed it. But I mean, I don't think I've played many, and they haven't really done much recently. So I doubt that anybody's going to be really missing, apart from 1313.
But again, I don't think that would have turned out into anything because the reason I'm jaded about the Star Wars games is because of the Force Unleashed. I remember being really excited about that game. It came out, I picked it up, I played it, I never played it again. I actually didn't beat that game because it was just not that good. So it wasn't that good though. And then the Star Wars Force Unleashed 2 came out, and that was meant to be like even worse, even shorter, even more phoned in. So they destroy good ideas, and yeah, goodbye LucasArts. You probably won't be missed.
Yeah.
So that's the big news of the week. So now we have three other stories, which are kind of small stories, but they're still kind of noteworthy if you kind of care about them, I guess. I guess that's how life works. But the first one I'm going to talk about is the new Pokemon announced. Probably called Mewthree, although that's a terrible name, so they probably would go for something a lot better. There was the odd thing, before recording this podcast, I checked out Mewthree, because pretty much they released a trailer showing this Pokemon that looks very similar to Mew and Mewtwo, but kind of having a bit of a, I don't know, Selby thing about it. Would that be fair? Like if you took Mewtwo and Selby and kind of...
It's kind of like in the middle of Mew and Mewtwo with a bit of extra stuff as well.
Yeah, they just kind of made its face a bit different, took Mewtwo's tail and put it on its head, and there we go, Mewthree. It doesn't officially have a name, but what's odd is that I watched the trailer, and it seems like why would they make that trailer? That trailer was terrible because they didn't want to reveal anything about the thing, but they wanted to unveil it. And of course, this is 2013, so they need to have a video, but it was just really choppy editing. It was like Shadow Ball chop, another attack chop, another attack chop. So I don't know. The whole thing about this is that I've never followed Pokemon or a new Pokemon game on the lead up. I don't know if you have, but this is how they do it. They just reveal Pokemon one by one. Here's another new one because there's going to be like 100 or probably 150 new ones. And honestly, I don't really like this approach. I don't know if you know.
I started following them around Black and White when they announced Zora, the weird little black and red thing. And pretty much what I've seen them do is they reveal one or two Pokemon and then they'll just bring out the game. And it just seems a bit pointless. Like, why have they released these Pokemon? And I think the reason they do it is to get a taste of the fact that there's going to be all these new different Pokemon in the game. It's not really to show you the new Pokemon, but it's to hype you up for the game, I guess.
Well, yeah, you can see why they would do it. It's to make people interested in the game. It's to make people aware of it. It got they talked about this game or showed it off for the first time only a couple of months ago. So it's coming out in October. They got to get people excited, and of course, big Pokemon fans out there are interested in exactly what the new Pokemon are going to be, but I don't know. This is the first time I've actually been following what the new Pokemon have been announced. I think there's been 10 or so, I think a bit less than 10. And so far I've just been like, oh, who cares? At this point, like, I really like the approach they did with the 5th gen, as in making a whole new set of Pokemon and doing it starting fresh. But now with this X and Y, the way they're revealing these Pokemon, I feel like maybe they're just going back and I don't know. At this point, it just seems like they could be making the same mistakes that the fourth gen made. Because at the moment they've had the free starters, and it's like, oh, a new evolution. I was like, oh, remember Mewtwo? We're doing a new Mewtwo. It just feels a bit uninspired.
You know, a lot of people complained about the 5th gen Pokemon, saying that a lot of them were stupid. But I mean, they were all pretty much new, like something that we'd never seen before, like new types, new looks, like. So it was exciting having the entire new race. But so far, what I've seen of X and Y, I think it's going to be a good game. But so far, the Pokemon don't seem very original. They just seem based off other Pokemon.
No, I don't really like that approach. You can have new Pokemon, or you can have Pokemon based on older Pokemon, but you got to make sure there's a reason they come up. You can't just like be like, oh, we're just doing a new Mewtwo and put its tail on its head, and we got a new Pokemon, $1 million. You can't do it like that. You got to actually have a reason. It's got to be interesting, and I do like the design of this Mewthree or whatever, but I think the reason they actually have this is because it's meant to be in a new film. I was reading that the next film is gonna see Mewtwo return again. So far, Mewtwo has, he's stricken back, he's returned, and now he's just, he's just there. Just Ash and him must be good friends by this point, but so it's kind of a bit disappointing because with the fourth gen there was so much laziness in there, and I think maybe the reason why we're seeing all this stuff based off the first gen is because that's what people get excited about. I don't know, but I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of new Pokemon, but who's to know at this point?
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so there probably will be a lot of more new Pokemon. If you're going to release details, release details, not this vagary. I don't know. I don't really, who cares? It's going to be a good game in the end,
It's
but
kind of like taunting all the fans.
yeah, I mean, obviously this is quite nice that they're trying to keep fans, interested by doing this, but yeah, pretty much I'm not interested until they actually reveal anything concrete. So the next kind of small bit of news is Aliens Colonial. I don't know how to say that word. I don't care. Colonial. Yeah, that word always trips me up. Marines. It has been cancelled on the Wii U, and I'm honestly not surprised by this. But the reason why I bring it up is because this seems weird that they would cancel it. Now, obviously, straight away when you think about it, it makes complete sense. The Aliens was a terrible game. It sold poorly. Sega are bad and should feel bad. Gearbox sucks. I don't want to talk any more about that game specifically, but Gearbox are terrible, and people should stop making excuses for them because they make terrible games. But my point about all this is that we have coming up in May Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut, which is fixing a lot of the problems the original had and a lot of complaints that people had. New graphics, they probably won't look that much better, but they're new graphics, there's more stuff added to it. And, who's to say if it's going to do well or not, but as a fan, that's a really cool idea. So, why wouldn't you do this with the new Aliens game? They obviously messed up, Gearbox sucked, they're trying to fix it. Because I watched a panel of them saying, it's like, yeah, we're sorry about our game. We're going to release a 4 gig update for the game to try and fix the game. Which I was like, great. So why not just say, okay, it sucks, but we're going to fix it, and do a director's cut with the new Aliens game?
I think having the game as it is now, if a game is bad, a game is bad. There's nothing you can do about it. But maybe releasing a director's cut would be the best approach because you could add new stuff, you could take out bad things, and you can improve on it. But I mean, I think I just think if the game is bad, don't release updates and things like that. Like you said, a director's cut probably would be the best approach to making it a decent game.
It definitely would, because you could do so much with it, and they obviously had started making the Wii U version, and I don't know if at some point in development they were like, okay, pause the Wii U version until the 360 one comes out, and we'll go from there. And PS3 and PC. I usually say PS3, 360, PC, but whatever, no one cares. But this could have been a really great opportunity because that game it was bad, but you could definitely see things they could have done. They could have made it a bit more scary. They could have made the graphics better. They could have fixed the technical bugs. They could have added more to it. They could have expanded on it. There was some good ideas there, but obviously because Gearbox are terrible. Because here's the thing. Here's a bit of a tangent. Here's why I don't like Gearbox. Okay, they made the Brothers in Arms series. They suck. Those games are bad. That was back when the World War II was kind of on its high horse, so they were like, oh, we'll make Brothers in Arms. You know, they were sick of porting games to the PC because that's all they used to do. So they made Brothers in Arms. They made like 10 of those, all terrible, just completely missed the point of making Band of Brothers into a game. And then they made Borderlands, which is incredibly overrated, personally, I think. And then it turns out that they were meant to be making Aliens, but during that point, they took resources that they were given by Sega, and to make Aliens, and they used that on Borderlands. And then they made Duke Nukem Forever, which people make excuses for, and that was terrible. And then Borderlands 2 was the same game, just they rearranged the levels. So, and then they make Aliens eventually, and it's awful. So, I don't know what your opinion is of Gearbox, but I think they're scumbags.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played any of their games, but from what you've told me, I think they just need to sort of stop and take a breather. Like, spend a good, I don't know, a couple years, maybe 5 years developing a good game. Stop bringing out games and make a good one. Because if you keep bringing out bad games, people are just going to not like you even more, and you're not going to make any money because people aren't going to like your games. Just not have a game for a few years, but then whilst you're doing that, develop a good game that people are going to buy and people are going to like.
Well, people really like Borderlands, that's the thing. I know in this conversation I'm definitely, or in the gaming world, I am the minority. Because most people would say that, yeah, Gearbox, they make some bad games, but nobody ever thinks of the Brother in Arms series that weren't very good. People only think, yeah, Borderlands was a good game though. It took the repetitiveness of MMO and transferred it over. Great. So people do really like them, but this could have been their chance, I think. I'm assuming this came from Sega. Sega was like, stop, we just need to cancel this game and forget it ever existed. But seeing how Gearbox, they're releasing these updates for the PC version. And only the PC version, by the way. You can't get these updates on the 360 and PS3. Seems like maybe Gearbox could redeem themselves with a Wii U version and use the gamepad and all that kind of ways, but now it's never going to happen.
I mean, I think that they shouldn't have gone with a Wii U version at all. Like, that would have been the best decision, and like I said, start developing a new game that's going to be good. But since they'd already started it, it seems a bit stupid to, once you've begun it, to stop doing it halfway through. I mean, if you're going to do something, you have to stick with it and actually go all the way with it.
Well, it definitely does make, you can see why, the game, Sega they've been doing really badly the last few years, and about 2 years ago, I think 2011, before Sonic Generations came out, Sega said we're streamlining our model, so we're not going to publish any small games, we're just going to focus on our main franchises, which were Sonic, Aliens, and I think there was another one, but I can't remember right now. So really every release for Sega counts, and Sonic has been doing pretty good, but Aliens has done pretty well, so you can see why Sega would say, no, we're not going to waste our time with this, let's just move on. But I think as a gamer, this could have been really cool.
Sega would have learned by now, going through this stuff that they've gone through with having bad games in Sonic, having bad games in their other series. I mean, it seems, I don't know, maybe they should have stuck with it, because like I said, you can't start something and not do it. So they should, even if it is a not very good game, they're still going to make money off of it, because even with these bad games, money is usually made.
Not usually. They cost so much nowadays. That this Aliens thing, it's been in development for like 10 years. So I think it probably lost money, but I guess it's, the reasons are obvious why this happened. The Wii U fan base is very small and it's not been selling well. Aliens is a terrible game, so why put a terrible game on a console with no people buying the console? It's not going to happen, but... Oh well, there we go.
I think a lot of people probably still would have bought it, because it's still going to be a few months before there's any more Wii U games, so it would have been a new game that... it would have been a good thing for Nintendo, because it would have brought a few hardcore fans over.
Well, I think if Square Enix can re-release Deus Ex and improve it, even though people like that game, Sega could have, done it with this.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been a huge failure if they did keep it on the Wii U, and I don't agree with cancelling it.
Oh well. The last bit of news is that I don't want to go too much into this, because pretty much the reason why there hasn't been that much news this week is because everyone's just been talking about the new Xbox. Now, if you want to hear my thoughts on the rumours on that, that was in the Proto Mario episode, so go to episode 3. And I don't really want to discuss them, mainly because they're still rumours. Like, everyone's still talking about them, but they're still rumors. So that's why I won't be discussing the actual rumors, because pretty much they say it's going to be online and things like that. But what I will discuss is that the Microsoft's creative director, I'm assuming one of them, has gone onto Twitter and has posted quite a lot of comments about this. He apologizes for the inappropriate thing, but honestly, I don't see anything bad in what he said. Because the whole thing is that people don't want to go online or be constantly online because in case you have a bad internet connection and it's too much, you're relying too much on the internet. But his tweets were not inappropriate. Like, the first one I'm reading here in response to it, sometimes the electricity goes out, I will not purchase a vacuum cleaner. As a response, as in, if I have to stay connected online, I will not buy the new Xbox. And then he just says, sorry for expressing my personal opinion about what I want from electronic devices that I pay for on Twitter. And yeah, he's kind of a bit like screw you guys. And then he posted a picture of Obama and it says deal with it, as you can see here. But I don't know what your initial impressions of all this is, but I have no problem with what he said.
He seems, I don't know what the word is, I don't think cocky is right, but he seems a bit sort of sarcastic, which I think would annoy a lot of people because they're complaining. And basically him say a few of the things he said there, it seems like they're not taking the people who are complaining it seriously. They're basically just ignoring them and like laughing at them in a way. But I don't think it wasn't really inappropriate or offensive, but I think it could easily be taken the wrong way.
Well, it just shows how fake the internet is, because people on the internet will happily attack people, like someone at Microsoft being like, oh, the new Xbox might be online all the time. That's what we have. It's like, oh, the new Xbox, there's some rumors going around and reports that it might be online all the time. And there's a lot of people whose response was that to bombard the Facebook page, or, based on rumors, they will attack people. Like, someone like this who works for Microsoft, they'll be like, I hope you die of AIDS. And then this guy responds quite calmly. Sure, he's not happy about it, but people are slagging off Microsoft and being very critical at this point. They're being critical of rumors, saying, screw Microsoft, I hate those guys, even though Microsoft hasn't done anything wrong. So this guy just seems like a guy who's kind of sick of it, and he's making some good points. Like, really, the whole thing is, like, one of his things as well was the mobile reception in the area I live in is a bit spotty and unreliable. I will not buy a mobile phone. I don't like the idea of the new Xbox being online only, but he is kind of making some good points. But because he's making them a bit sarky, or he's not being corporate about it, people have a problem, which show how fake people are on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, people, like, I don't know, they like, even if they know that they're not actually going to do it, they like getting a response that makes them feel like they've achieved something. And when they don't get that, and they're basically sort of being, I don't know, spat in the face, I guess you could say, like, when they don't get that, people get upset, and that's when they start throwing insults at people because they know what they're saying hasn't gone through. Like, they just get annoyed about it.
He hasn't said anything bad, and that's my problem with it. And it just shows that there's this large community and people on the internet. They'll happily attack people, voice their opinions, and then someone just comes back at them. Not that hard. This isn't him swearing. And that's the thing, he didn't swear once, he didn't insult anyone, he just expressed his opinion and did it in a pretty witty way. So I have nothing but respect for this guy, but of course people are going to be outraged, like, we're on IGN, alright? Don't want to promote those guys. But let's see what the top comment is at random. I can deal with it by purchasing a PS4, I bet the people at Sony love this guy. War has changed, but the arseholes stay the same. There are a bunch of women over here, not to be sexist, of course, but there are a bunch of babies who are just complaining because somebody said, yeah, Adam Off, I think that's his name, is an idiot. Why? It's just so childish of them. They just can't take somebody hitting them back and just being honest and saying, I have no problem with this, and because he's using their tactics against them, so obviously their approach is wah.
Yeah, like people, like they don't. I've seen it a lot on the internet. If someone has good valid points, but then they're beaten by even better valid points, they don't like it and they start getting violent. They start getting mean, and it just, like you said, it makes them look bad. Like, it just makes it seem like, well, why should we listen to you if you're just going to yell at us if we don't. So it seems like the comments that have been built on there make it seem like, well, if they're going to be insulting them that much, they can't like them that much, so they're not going to be that bothered if the console has something that they don't like.
Yeah, well, they can. Here's my problem with this: is that there's two major things with this story that makes me annoyed about it. One is that this is rumors. They're rumors and speculation. Nothing has been confirmed, and I don't want anyone like saying when it does get confirmed, because it probably will. Like when it is confirmed, it's like, see, it is, but it's like at this point in time, it's rumors. So this guy can be like, maybe it's not true. There's a good chance it might not be true, and this guy is seeing all this outrage and is just kind of sick of it. And the second reason is because this guy was smart. Like, there is definitely a wrong way to respond to internet fans and internet response, what people say on the internet. And there's a wrong and right way. And this guy did it the right way, but because it wasn't like a sorry guy, like because it wasn't catering to the general voice, he just gets shut down. And as someone on the internet, I see that a lot. It happens so much. It's the internet. This is getting way too deep or way too off topic, but the internet is supposed to be this great place where anyone can express their opinions and be heard. But instead, it's now become this mob mentality when somebody's like, yeah, I actually, I think this is okay, and he does it in a sarky way, sure, but everyone's like, screw this guy, like, everyone hates him, and, I'm gonna make a funny picture calling him a gaylord, and that's the response. That's the amazing creative space that the internet is apparently meant to be. It's pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, with your first point, I can understand people wanting to, that they've heard these rumours and they want to prevent it, but you can only go so far preventing it before it gets out of hand. I think people have kind of forgotten that this is just rumours and kind of think that this is going to happen and they're going to have to do something about it. And with your second point, people kind of like to feel powerful with the internet, so they'll express their opinion, they'll think that that's right, and they won't like it when someone doesn't agree with it, and they will start to get mean.
It's just fake. It's just kind of fake, and I mean, a lot of these people posting online are children, so when they act like it, I can't be that surprised, but it's kind of a bit sad, so. And, just to be clear, I don't want the new Xbox to be online. If the new Xbox is online only and always online, then I'm buying a PS4. I'm not paying a new Xbox, but I'm going to vote with my wallet, and, some of these people on these forums they're just expressing their opinion as well. Got no problem with those people, but it's just kind of all a bit sad, I guess.
Yeah, like they seem to think that they represent the entire fan base of Microsoft. Like, just because this guy said this, they think that, like, Sony is gonna like him or something. Because he's probably persuaded very few people to get a PS4 from what he said. Because it's not, like you said, it's not being mean, it's not being rude or anything. So I'm sure a lot of people like you have kind of realised what he said. Some people have decided that they're still gonna rather get PS4. Some people have kind of listened to what he said and realised that maybe it's not such a bad thing. But I mean, for some reason, all the people that don't like it seem to think that they represent the entire fan base. But really, this guy doing this, if it has done anything, it would have done a very small amount.
Yeah, it's just odd. It's all the problem I have with the internet and this kind of thing is that it's all fake activism, and it's all just a bunch of bigots in a way. I'm sure people on the internet don't want to be called bigots, and I'm not talking about everyone, of course, but there is a pack mentality, and even looking on IGN now, it says Microsoft Creative Director on Always Online, deal with it. When really all he did was post a picture of Obama and use that to voice his opinion, which I don't know. It just exposes the internet for being frauds, and yeah, not really a good opinion. Right, so let's move on to what games are coming out. I'm going to bring this up because it's going to be noticeable, but we recorded the first half of the podcast, and then there was an audio problem, so I apologise for the audio quality in that first half. Hopefully it's going to be a bit better for the rest of it, so yeah, I apologise about that. Yeah, so the first game it came out 2 weeks ago on the PS3 and 360, but it's been quite old. The first game is Terraria. Yeah, I can't say that name. I just can't say it. It's embarrassing. But yeah, so that came out, and so what's this game all about? Because I've never played it, or I've heard of it, but I've never played it or anything.
Well, it's kind of similar to Minecraft. They're not the same because there's been a lot of debate about that. But it's a similar style game in the way that it's sandbox, you build stuff. But this game, in case any of you have played Minecraft, you'll know that that's based around building. This game's more based around collecting, going and mining, and like you go up through the game, sort of like levels, but it's like tiers where you get weapons and armor and certain items that improve you, and you basically just get more and more powerful as you go through the game.
Alright, fair enough. Because the thing is, what's interesting about this game is that it came out like a year and a half ago or something like that, originally, and now it's been ported over to consoles, and this seems like it's now a trend. Because of course, with Minecraft coming out, that's the game that kind of, opened the floodgates, if you will, because Minecraft was a big hit, or it was a surprised hit, but everybody loved it on PC, and then they ported it over to the 360, where it became an even bigger hit. And when you kind of look at it and think about it, nobody kind of thought it would be a hit on the 360 originally, because you lost so much that it wasn't updated as often, you couldn't use the mods, you couldn't have as much freedom. So I think it's pretty, even though I'm not interested in these sort of games, I think it's pretty cool that they are now being ported over to the 360 as, easily as this.
In theory, it wouldn't be as popular as the PC version, like being on Xbox and PS3. But I mean, I think the reason that it is so popular is that people prefer consoles. Like, statistics show that. Like, people would rather go out and just buy a console, like maybe choose from one or two with different like sizes, like over going and looking for a PC that's going to be good for gaming and then buy the game on the computer. People just are a lot more comfortable just going out buying a console and then buying the game. They just like playing it on a console more. So I think that is one of the main reasons why it's a lot more popular.
Well, I have Minecraft on the 360, but I don't have it on the PC. But the thing is, I don't like talking about PC gaming too much because I'm so biased against it. Not for any real reason. I so enjoy consoles over PC. It's not even close. So that I really do enjoy this sort of thing, seeing these games get ported over. And honestly, it's kind of like a seal of approval. Like, okay, so this game did well on PC. A lot of games do, but this one is actually really good and is worth playing on the console. So I probably won't buy it, but it's pretty cool that it's here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cheaper, but well, it's not cheaper, but I think it's cheap and has got a lot of stuff in it. So if you are thinking about getting it, I would recommend getting it.
It does look pretty good. So yeah, that came out 2 weeks ago, but we haven't got much to talk about here because the other two games are also downloadable titles, but they came out on Nintendo consoles, so I guess that's a bit odd, and it's pretty cool, I guess. The first one is a game that got revealed ages ago called Toki Tori 2. In case you haven't heard of it, it's this it's a Wii eShop game where you control this chicken. I think it's a chicken, it's some sort of bird, and you go around cutesy levels using different upgrades and power-ups, and from what I can see, it's very similar to Metroid in its design, with its kind of getting new upgrades to get further on. And I have to say, it looks pretty fun. It's meant to be like good, simple but good and all that, but I think it looks pretty good. My main problem with it, by looking at footage of it, is that they went way too kind of iPhone-y with it. The whole thing is that it looks like it actually could be a proper gaming experience with, the levels actually having stuff to them rather than being a bit brainless, but they've made it look like an iPhone game, with it being a bird, with the big eyes, with the whole cartoony look. And maybe it's just me, but that is a put-off when I'm choosing, things on the eShop.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like iPhone and like handheld games or phone games tend to have a certain style of games that kind of, I think, in my opinion, should stay away from console games. Like, I didn't like it when Angry Birds went over to onto Xbox. So I hope that they're not kind of transferring games that would normally be the type of game that's on your phone onto your Xbox or your PS3.
Well, the thing is, that's not it. This isn't one, but they've made it look like one. And I don't know, it's a nitpick. It probably is a good game, but it's kind of, I think it's pretty cheap, and it would be nice to play something on the Wii U. It's also coming to Steam, so if you don't have a Wii U, you can pick it up there. But I don't know, this has been a game they've kind of been teasing for a while, and it looks pretty good. But I think, I don't know. I don't think I'll, personally, I won't end up getting it.
Well, I don't know anything about it, so I have to look a bit more into it before I can make my judgment.
So the other game that is out this week is Harmonight. Now this one's an interesting one because Game Freak, they're most famously known for the Pokemon games, but they don't exclusively do Pokemon. It's just that's what they focus on. Back on the Game Boy Advance, they made a game called Drill Dozer, which I think Drill Dozer was in Smash Bros. Brawl as one of the assist trophies. And once again, they've developed a new sort of game called Harmo Knight. If you don't know anything about it, it's kind of this weird anime kind of game, but the whole objective is that I think you constantly run, and you have to then collect music notes, and you collect music notes along to the rhythm. It's kind of similar. Yeah, kind of, but it's centered around music, and you kind of play to the music. It's kind of similar to playing the Rayman Legends demo, and it actually looked really fun. It's kind of odd because I was complaining about Tokitori 2 looking too much like an iPhone app kind of game. But this is an iPhone app kind of game with the simple gameplay, but then you've got different things you can do and it's more complex. So I'll be honest, I haven't really played much on my 3DS, but this one looks actually really quite fun.
I mean, I enjoy platformers. Like, I enjoy ones where you're constantly running, and I really enjoy games that's like Rhythm Paradise that are involved with music. So I think mixing them all together, I think it could be very successful, and I'll definitely look into buying it.
Well, it looks like it's going to be one of the major eShop releases, probably of the year. So if you want something for 3DS, again, I don't want to give recommendations on this part of the podcast, mostly because I haven't played any of the three games we've discussed, but based on what I've seen, this looks really good, and will probably be a pretty good hit, and hopefully we'll see more from Game Freak in the future like this. But
A bit like that Armadillo game thing.
what's the Armadillo game?
Basically, a few like months ago, there was this game that was released on the eShop, and it looked quite good. It looked like it should have been a console game, and it was immensely popular. So maybe this could go in the same direction.
Oh, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Alright, so that's it for current gaming. I still don't have a name, but now we're going to move on to the topic, and this week we're going to discuss one of the biggest gaming franchises out there, one of the most successful, one of the most popular, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, of course, when it comes to Sonic, he hasn't always been on top form. He's definitely a bit of a roller coaster when it comes to
Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Yeah, apparently, there's definitely been a few that people have not really enjoyed, but it seems like at this point in time, Sega is back on course with Sonic and kind of knows what they're doing again, and Sonic team are doing a good job. So the topic is, where should the Sonic franchise head to next? What is their next move? Now, the reason why I'm kind of asking this, or this is the topic, is because there hasn't been a new Sonic game since, I believe, Sonic 4 Episode 2, and that came out last May. So obviously they're back planning something big, but the question is what, and what should it be? So first we're going to have a look back on, because Sonic has been so all over the place this generation. The games that have come out this generation, you got Sonic and the Secret Rings, you got Sonic the Hedgehog, or Sonic 06, you got Sonic Unleashed, you got Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, so many different styles. Sonic and the Black Knight, so many different styles, Sonic 4. So what about you, Ed? Out of all the games you've played this generation, which one do you think should be the starting point for the next generation of Sonic games?
Well, I'm not sure, because if you look at the games, they're all doing something new. Like, so I think Sonic and the Secret Rings involves motion, Black Knight, Sonic has a sword, Generations, he goes back and forth, and so on. But I think that Sonic Generations was, well, obviously it was the most popular, but I think it was the best way to go, because I liked Sonic Unleashed. I liked the Werehog. Maybe the levels are a bit boring, but I like the design of him. But I'm not sure. Obviously, people don't like him for a reason. I mean, I did like him. I don't think it would be that bad to bring something similar like that back, but I think a lot of people wouldn't like it. So I'm saying that something like Generations, but maybe instead of having the two separate level styles, maybe a bit mix them together, kind of similar to the way that Sonic Adventure did.
Something like that would definitely be good. Because here's the thing, Sonic Generations was obviously kind of a reset for the Sonic series. It was a retrospect, but it also did a good job being its own kind of game, but of course it was the whole plot was Sonic meeting his former self, so they have to now start on something new. But, I mean, do you like the idea of maybe Sonic Adventure 3, or do you think they should go more for the 2D style that people love?
Because I think Sonic because the Sonic Adventure series, I haven't played the first one, but I played the second one. Like I said, it was a mix of the old and the new, because you weren't just speeding through a level with no skill at all, just pushing left and right. But then you weren't going through a level quite slowly, like getting hit by every enemy on the way. So I think it was a good mix. But I think maybe having it in Sonic Adventure 3, it should be similar to Generations, where you can go from 2D to 3D, but in levels, but then not have that sort of definite line in between them. Just have it like mixed together.
Yeah, I think they could definitely do a Sonic Adventure 3 and mix in that sort of way. I mean, who knew? Who knows? I'm assuming they're going to announce what they're doing with the Sonic franchise at E3 this year, and there's a good chance it might be similar to Sonic 06, where they're like, it's a new generation Sonic, and it comes out early out for the PS4 and the new Xbox, and hopefully the Wii U. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, personally, here's the thing: people complain about the Sonic games, and they say, "Oh, Amy's annoying," or "Oh, a sword that sucks." But the problem with the Sonic games was never the gimmicks. The gimmicks were quite creative. They added variety. It kept the series fresh. The problems was the execution and the actual games itself. Like, Sonic Adventure 2 was a pretty good game, but the reason why Sonic Heroes sucked is because the controls were bad, there was tons of glitches, and it was just a mess. The reason why Sonic 06 sucked was, yeah, sure, you had the story problems, but the reason why it sucked is because it was rushed, again, more technical problems, and the reason why people, Sonic Unleashed was definitely a good starting point for trying to, bring people back. But, with the Werehog levels, like, the reason why Sonic Unleashed is a good game, and a good game to look at, is because it was the start of Sega actually making games that weren't technical messes. And I think that's the main thing. It's an obvious point, but really the new Sonic game can't be a rushed mess. It can't have the same technical problems that Sonic 06 did.
I mean, like nowadays you can't have bugs in games. Like if you watch like some really older videos, there'll be a bug in the game and people won't mind. But now if there's a bug in the game, people get really annoyed, and I can understand why. Because all the technology they have today, I would rather than make not a really simple game, but then not have loads and loads of features, but then not work, but then maybe have 2 or 3 features that work really well and are really good ideas.
Well, with Aliens and the rest of the Sonic games, I think Sega's definitely, at this point, they've learned that lesson that it's so much better to keep a game back and release it when it's ready than to rush it out for a deadline. Because you make a good game, that will sell forever. Like, just take a look at Rayman Origins. They didn't do a Rayman game since, if you don't include Raving Rabbit, since Rayman 3, which was 2003. And then they made Rayman Origins, but they didn't rush it. They just, they made a lot of development changes, and then eventually it came out. Sure, it didn't sell too great at first, but it's been selling well ever since. So I think that's the approach Sega has to kind of use here, or Sonic Team has to use. They have to try and make something new, but try and bring it back. But, because here's the thing, I don't think they should go back to 2D. That's my kind of main point, or something I don't really want to see. I really enjoyed Sonic 4 Episode 2. I thought that was great. Sonic 4 Episode 1, not so much, but I thought Episode 2 did a really good job. So, I don't want to see the 2D, though, because the 2D is done. If Sega keeps trying to chase... Because Sonic Generations wasn't good because of the old Sonics in it, or it was old levels. It was good because it was a well-made game that was fun to play. So my main thing I want to see a new 3D Sonic game, not 2D, and I don't want it to try and harbour on nostalgia because they've burnt out all the nostalgia with Generations.
Yeah, I mean, what I don't want is, like, I think there are a few levels in Unleashed and, like, a lot in levels, like, in some of the other games, where you literally just have to run through a level and all you do is press left and right and jump a few times. I mean, it's fun at first, but then it does get a bit boring when the levels aren't very interesting and you're just running. So I think it can't go back to 2D, but then it can't go too far with the whole 3D thing. It kind of needs to be in the middle.
Well, I think in the middle would kind of work, but Sonic Unleashed with those levels were kind of in the middle, and with modern Sonic in Generations, it was kind of in the middle. But what I want, alright, is Sonic Colors again. I want a new Sonic Colors, not a sequel to Sonic Colors, but a game that it's 3D, but there's 2D elements, there's a lot of creativity to it. It has a new gimmick that doesn't get in the way, you're still playing as Sonic, and it's well made, lots of variety, because I love Sonic Colors. The main problem with that game is that it was only 4 hours long, which is kind of embarrassing. I thought that game was great. So I think like Sonic Colors is definitely an odd game though, because they kind of just released it as like, we need a new Wii Sonic game, we'll just release Sonic Colors, and it's been one of the best games. And I would say Sonic Generations is better, but Sonic Generations was just nostalgia. That was kind of its thing. It was well made, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't its own original Sonic title, not really. So I think if they, if I can ask for one thing, I want a new next generation Sonic, but I would like Sonic Colors to be the template.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Generations is it had the two things I don't like about Sonic, which was speeding through levels and then sort of the slow platforming style. So I think having a game, like I've said many times, that's kind of in the middle, along with having a new gimmick that doesn't get in the way, would be a very good Sonic game and probably would be very popular. But it also has to have that Sonic feel, right? I felt Sonic Colors did. It had that kind of story, and Eggman had that plan that felt like Sonic. Like things. The problem with I think the Black Knight was it didn't feel like Sonic. It was like this evil overlord who was doing stuff, and it's like, well, this doesn't suit Sonic and the usual stuff he goes through. So I think have a game that's in the middle of being 2D and 3D that has a good gimmick and is Sonic would be a good game.
Well, that's the main point of contention, I think, between fans is that, well, should there be a gimmick? And I say yes, because, okay, it's been a bit risky with the gimmicks before, like you got Sonic in the Black Knight, he has a sword, and I don't think they completely messed that up, but, that game wasn't bad because of the gimmick. The game was bad because the gimmick was poorly executed. It was very simple. I think they were... Yeah, it was very samey. They were limited by the Wii. And then Sonic Unleashed, I think, similar kind of deal. It wasn't a bad idea to have this werehog, but while they nailed the Sonic levels, it was just poorly executed. So I think one thing, I'm definitely optimistic about the Sonic franchise in the future, because it does seem like at this point in time, Sonic Team, they know what they're doing, because their problem has never been coming up with good ideas, it's always been actually making the game itself. I remember Hellfire Comms, who are, big Sonic people on YouTube. They said that what they wanted from a new Sonic game, about 2 years ago they said this, is that a Sonic game that Sonic Team helps with, but Nintendo makes. Because the only difference between Nintendo and Sonic Team when it comes to their main franchise, Mario and Sonic, is that Nintendo can come up with really good ideas, and then they can pull them off. But Sonic Team can come up with really good ideas, and they usually don't pull them off.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying with the bugs earlier, if you can have a really good idea, that would make a really good game. But then if you make the game badly, it's not going to be popular. Like just having the good idea isn't going to get you through, like sort of the designing of the game. You have to design it as well as you've come up with the ideas.
Yeah, I mean that's always been Sonic Team's problems. But I mean, looking back on the old Sonic games, I want something new at this point, but. I don't know, maybe it's just my weird nostalgia, but I really enjoy the 3D Sonic games. There's something about them, even though they're kind of a bit inconsistent and some of them suck, but I think when some people, they have nostalgia for Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, and they're great, I really like Sonic 2, but I have nostalgia for Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, the GameCube one, and Sonic Heroes, even though Sonic Heroes when I'm playing out, it sucks. So I have a weird nostalgia for that, so I don't know how much of that is plaguing my kind of opinion on what I want from a new Sonic game, but you guys listening kind of need to know I do have a bit of bias because I do enjoy the 3D Sonic games.
Yeah, I mean I think over the last decade they brought out loads of different games, and they all have a good idea, and if they just worked on that good idea along with making it a good Sonic game, and maybe brought it out over a longer period of time and not brought out so many in a short time, a lot of Sonic fans would have really enjoyed that, even like the old school one.
Well, here's another big question. Would you like to see DIMPs involved more in these games?
What's DIMS?
DIMPs are pretty much the company who people say are like the saving grace of Sonic, because they made Sonic Rush, and people say that Sonic Rush was one of the best Sonic games, one of the better ones, and there was like this whole thing about saying like, oh, while the console Sonic games suck, at least the handheld ones were pretty good. I'm checking out to see if, they had some hand in Sonic Advance, but they made Sonic Rush and people liked them. So then DIMPs are now a company that get associated to all the Sonic games. So in Sonic Unleashed, Dimps had a big hand in designing the daylight levels and helping with the PS2 and Wii version. And a lot of people would argue that the PS2 and Wii version are the better versions because they actually do have a lot different to them. And then I think Dimps helped with, well, they did the 3DS version of Sonic Generations, which did a lot of things right. But I don't know. I don't really want to see Dimps working on the next one because the problem is that Dimps are really good with the 2D ones, but I don't think they're quite as solid with the 3D ones at all. Like with Sonic 4, they had a big hand in helping with that, and there's a lot of like things you can see that are wrong with it. Because all my problems about Sonic 4 Episode 1 are from the Dimps kind of level design, the big open pits. So I would like to see Dimps work on something, but it'd be cool to see Dimps work on their own original 3DS title, you know, something similar to Sonic Generations, but its own kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the games that they've designed, they can come up with good stuff, but then, like you said, with Sonic Unleashed, they only done half a game if they've only done the daylight levels, and then with Sonic Rush, it's a 2D handheld. So I think they should be involved in it, but I don't think they should be the main developers. I think they should just contribute to it and not be the main people making it.
Well, that's how they've been doing it in the last few years, so that trend will probably continue. But seeming how there's been no Sonic news or nothing Sonic related apart from some, I think it's like Sonic Dash jump or something on the iPhone, since May, I think it's safe to assume that maybe we're going to get Sonic 4 Episode 3 from Dimps or something like that. Or at E3 this year, there's going to be like a new generation Sonic, but also a new 3DS and PS Vita Sonic. And, you know, for as long as they, you know, take their time with it, actually put some effort into it, I think, you know, the Sonic franchise can only really go, well, I don't want to say up, but can keep being good with games like Sonic Colors and Generations.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that there isn't going to be a new Sonic game this year, because if it is, it's going to be rushed, because it would have only had about a year and a half to do it. I'm hoping that if they do announce a Sonic game at E3, that it's going to be very vague, they're not going to announce a lot of it, and then it's going to come out in 2014, because that's what Nintendo seem to do. They seem to put a lot of time in and then announce it a few years before, because then people get excited about it and they're going to want to buy it, even though there's a long period of time. Plus, they also have the time to make it a good game, and it doesn't feel rushed when playing it.
Well, I'm not too sure how much they should be taking from Nintendo because, you know, they can be very frustrating as a fan, although obviously the payoff is always good, so, you know, some sort of compromise would be nice. But I think we will see a new Sonic game this year because there's always been a Sonic game. Or a Sonic game in some sort of form has come out every year for the past, I don't even know, since at least 2000s, probably since Sonic Adventure 1. So I think we're going to see something new because last year it was Sonic All-Stars Racing, although it's Sega All-Stars Racing, and Sonic 4 Episode 2, so we'll see something new, but I don't know, it should be good, I hope it's good. I'll play it if it's good.
I just think the main thing is they just need to take their time and take the good things from other Sonic games whilst adding new things, and that'll make a good game.
Hopefully. Oh, well, I think that's about all the time we have for. Of course, you can leave your comments below if you want, you can subscribe if you want, you can do all that other stuff. If you want, I don't really care.
You can like.
You can like, I guess, you can do that, I don't know. Of course, you can download the audio of this in the, description below. Don't forget to go check out EdwardDaGuy's channel, link in the description.
Damn good channel.
And I have to apologise for the audio problems in this one. Next week it won't be the same, so yeah, thanks for joining me, Ed, and yeah, any last words before we end this?
Subscribe.
Sure, definitely. So, yeah, so thank you very much for watching or listening, and I will see you next week.
Bye.